Welcome to
Did we do
Star
it?
Trek
Are we here?
Discovery Pod. We are Stardate 47634.44. I am your acting captain, also known as Ensign Clyde Haynes, and with me today, in the
It's
seat
Chief of
next to me
Security
is
Merv Paul Satachin. Our captain's in sick bay, everyone. So good luck.
if you haven't been able to quite figure out what's been going on, just and why we had 16 intros, the answer is because when you have a captain who hasn't taken any holodeck simulator time, who hasn't actually been to Starfleet, but just showed up one day and said, "Let me sit in the big chair," this is what you get. So no, it's exciting. We're so excited to be here with you all today. We're going to talk about two episodes. Paul, what episodes are we talking about today?
We are talking about episode 17, Ghost in the Machine, directed by Andrew Schmidt and written by Chad Quant. And episode 18, Mind Walk, directed by Sung Shin and Julie and Shauna Benson.
Great. So, just a few reminders. If you are, we definitely want, if you're watching us live, feel free to chat along with us in the live chat. Just type capital P, capital O, capital D, capital pod in the chat, and we'll take a look at your chat. And in a second, we'll talk about your initial reactions to the show. If you want us to take a look at those, just type capital H, capital F into the chat and we'll take a look at that. But first, Paul, can you remind the listeners how to subscribe to us?
Clyde, I can. Hey, everyone. You can subscribe to our podcast via Apple, Spotify, YouTube. All the links are at StarTrekPod.co. And if you love our content and you would like to support us, please consider Patreon for just $2 per episode at patreon.com/StarTrekPod.
All right. So no funny quips. We got a couple people. It's the holiday season. We've watched a couple episodes of a Star Trek Prodigy. So let's jump in. Paul, I think it's time. Do you think it's time? I think it's time.
For Ghost of Machines, let's see.
All right, Paul, what's your hot freak on Ghost in the Machine?
This is the episode that I felt was obligatory for any Star Trek show. That I'm stuck in the holodeck episode, and it's a mashup of everyone's like Hollow Fantasies ish. I tend to not enjoy these episodes as much.
No,
and it's one of those things where I was like, oh, this is like, oh, I'm running out of things to do this season. So, but I felt that it was fine. I thought it was great. I might be very lenient as I just came back from vacation. So like I was watching like, oh, hey, it's nice to see all these people, they're kind of like internal, what they want, right? Like that's what you're seeing.
Yes. So I gotta ask, do you have what's the gold standard of holodeck centric episodes for you?
Gold
is
standard.
there one? And feel free if you're in the chat and you want to share, I'm curious, what's the gold standard? Is there one that you're like, that's the one?
So all the holodeck episodes that take place in Voyager, no. There isn't one holodeck episode I enjoy in Voyager. But I think my favorite holodeck episode is in Deep Space Nine, and it is Paper Moon. And it is the one where Quark, Nog comes back from rehab because he lost his leg in the siege of SR, whatever. And it's a really good dramatic episode. I really enjoyed it. But I'm a big Nog fan. But you get to see Nog deal with PTSD and just see how, what's the word? You see how you go in young because you want to be eager and prove yourself in the in the army or the military, and the reality of being injured and the face of dying, all wrapped in a casino. so, so I really that's one of my favorite episodes. Period. Uh, but like it happens to be a holodeck episode. Majority of it takes place in a holodeck. So
I mean, for me, I'd say, I look at holodeck episodes or for TOS when we think about pre holodeck,
uh-huh,
any episode where somebody landed on a planet that was back in time, I consider that the same thing. So
okay,
like TOS, what is it, like Casino Royale, like stuff
sure,
like that.
yeah, yeah.
But by far my favorite would have to be Minuet. Like
Minuet, really interesting.
I think just the sense of like classic kind of look, I'm also a jazz lover, so like
Hmm.
jazz, you're chatting up like this moment. Um, I thought it was kind of cool. It was I don't know. I
This,
like Minuet.
this is one where Riker falls in love with the holodeck character.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
I think the episode's called like 1011. It's like it's binary, right? Because it's the
Yes, yes,
uh, yeah, it's a good episode.
yeah. So I mean, I like when I think about these, and I think about the episode Ghost in the Machine. It
Hmm.
definitely follows that track. And kind of you couldn't have a Star Trek series without one of these. Um, Feels good that we got it done with in the first season. So
Yeah, yeah, no. So I guess we should recap the episode, right? That's what we
yes,
do.
let's
Like
do a quick recap.
just so you know, normally the captain has this all laid out and guides us through along. We are winging it. So
Hey, this is a loose hang. Look, if you listen to our podcast, you know that occasionally we do a loose hang. That means we're going to open it up. We're going to turn the cameras and the mics on, and we're just going to talk about the show. It's
yeah,
imagine like we're all sitting around the living room. We just watched the episode. Now we're going to talk about it.
yeah.
That's what we're doing. You hear noises in the background? Ignore it. We're just chatting. It's good stuff. Okay.
Uh,
You want to recap the episode a little bit, Paul?
sure. Let's go. We open on the the what you call it the protostar shooting at the Dauntless in Morse code, trying to convey to them that like there's a problem. The Dauntless, however, starts shooting at them for real, and then boom, they get destroyed. Ah, they're on a holodeck. They're trying their way. They're trying to find a way to contact the Dauntless, and they keep
You
on.
know they were on the holodeck. When did you go? Yep, I know what's happening here.
I knew it from the very beginning because it's not something. It's a form in Star Trek where if you're starting mid something, it's not really real. I think it really started with Star Trek 2 with Rafa Khan. Like that was they were in the battle in the neutral zone. Everything goes to crap, and then here comes Kirk. That was a test, Sarek. You not Sarek. What's her name? Is it Sarek? What's Chrissy Alley's name?
Oh, yeah, I know it begins with an S, I think, but
And it ends with a
yeah.
K. Anyway,
Mhm.
the point being, like I knew from the beginning, but like it's fine. And you had to know from the beginning too, because the last episode, what was it? The Preludes ended with a cliffhanger with Janeway being knocked out. So it was just it couldn't be for real. But they fail, and Savick,
Slavic.
thank you,
Yep.
Tamika. Savick, yes, Savick. Uh, Mr. Savick. They call her Mr. Savick. Love it. Uh, and they're demoralized, and they go, maybe we just don't go to Starfleet. And that's the end. No, I'm just kidding. uh, Clyde, you gonna say something?
I was just gonna say, and hilarity ensues.
Yes. And so next thing they know, they're they're basically in the holodeck with all the various personal programs, and they're going through an adventure. We start first with a Sherlock Holmesy kind of mystery, trying to find some clues. We bleed into it's Zero's idea of fun. We bleed into Jenkum's like Street Fighter alley fight, and then we go into what you call it, a Merv sing along karaoke. Uh, and then we go into like a pirate ship, all while being mixed in with like rocks, like I'm going to run a animal hospital, you know, hopes, and I think we have the bartender as the diviner for Gwen.
Yeah.
But they're trying to solve the. Oh, I saw something and then I didn't see it.
Oh, I was just saying. I was gonna say. Kang says, um, Ghost in the Machine was way too Nickelodeon to me, but the ending was a great setup for Mind Walk. And I was gonna say, as you talk about this mashup of holodeck
Yep.
episodes,
Mm-hmm.
that's the moment where it felt very Nickelodeon to me, right? Like you're
100%.
mentioning the right things, like karaoke. Like it's almost like if you took video games and turned them into holodeck episodes, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like Dance Dance Revolution and Street Fighter
Yep.
and Pet Hospital, like all these things, right?
Yep.
Pirates of the like it, like that's what it was. It was kids. It was like it was a very wholesome kids kind of holodeck mashup, not like any Barkley-esque questionable type of holodeck experience. Um, and so yeah, it I thought that part was interesting, even if I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't relate to it.
Yeah, no, like you gotta remember these guys are still kids, so like you give that space and
Mhm.
you go like, oh, okay, Dal wants to be a captain, great, whatever. But like you wind up doing this kind of like flashback Sherlock Holmes discovery of like, oh, we know why this is happening, and they discover that Janeway set it all up. Dun dun dun, and he goes, why would she do that? And then you discover that like this was all a ploy by the construct to get control of the ship, and this is the first time the construct really used its influence over Janeway. Reveal like Janeway's been influenced by the construct, and it's set up all the way in the beginning where Janeway wasn't able to access all of her memories, and so it plays back on that because the construct has like corrupted her program, a bit of a program. Anyway, the construct takes control of the ship and heads it deep into Federation space, and that's where we end the episode. Right? Am I mistaken in that?
Yes, no, you're spot on. I think one of the things that I thought was interesting. So we talk about how Nickelodeon this is. One very interesting element is that when you look at the construct taking over uh kind of the Janeway hologram, the question is, well, why now? And the answer of, well, we were acting in accordance to his plan. That's actually really nuanced, right?
Yeah. No.
Like the bad guy is not always acting like the bad guy. The bad guy is only acting like the bad guy when you do something the bad guy doesn't want you to do, right? And
Absolutely. I
so
thought it
I
was
thought
great.
that was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. Totally.
Um, Also, we've got a couple other people love Bride of Chaotica.
Oh yeah, that I guess I forget Paris's like black and white phase, and
Mhm.
I do of all the Voyager stuff, I do enjoy those hologram episodes. It's just that like
So that was
Brigadoon type that Irish pub that they go to all the time. Like God, this sucks. Show me the salamander
yes.
episode. Oh, and actually, to correct it, they're not heading into Federation space. They head out of the neutral zone, and they
Mhm.
meet up with the Dauntless. That's the cliffhanger.
Right.
Uh,
Right. So Chupi also says her hot freak. Uh, I I love Mr. Murphy No Shoes and the whole Key Club. Very Star Trek, Sandrines, the club in the Killing Game, and the one in the Picard episode, the bar in Dixon Hills, DS9. Um, and it's so on brand. I agree with you, Chupi. I think one of the things that was interesting is just um it did feel on brand, right?
yeah,
It
no,
really did feel on brand. And it was to me, if you took some of these PG 13 holodecks and turned them down to G, that's what we got.
yeah, absolutely.
And so
Okay,
when they were in the nightclub, I was like, oh, this will be interesting. I immediately thought about Dixon Hill, right? And the Sherlock and Data Sherlock Holmes. And I said, let's
absolutely.
see where we go. Yeah.
what I find really interesting is like starting at TOS, and and then you have Deep Space Nine. There are already bars in there. There's 10 forward and there's Quarks, and then all of a sudden they're like,
Mhm.
you know what we need? We need a different bar. I gotta imagine how frustrating that must be for Quark. Because oh no, your bar is not quite good enough. I'm gonna go to Vix. Just hang out.
I mean, that is a really good point. It's like, how did Guinan feel,
Yeah,
right? When you're like, hey, you know what? I dig your bar. You've been around for a long time, but what I really need is basically a black and white bar, right? I need a bar from a different time period where the people are a little less real. Like that's what I'm digging. So it is very interesting that that's what they that's what
like
that's what they feel like they need.
no, I guess for Star Trek, I understand. I mean, I'm sorry for Voyager. I understand their need to create a bar because there's no
Mhm.
bar, there's no 10 forward in Voyager, and I go like, oh, I suppose they need someplace, right? And so I give it that, but like,
Yeah, but for everybody else, the thought is, you know what? I need a place where I can go and hang out with people and meet people. But the only thing is, I need those people to not actually be real.
yeah,
So
no,
that's
and I understand, like that's why you probably don't like Enterprise because there's no bar.
okay. So I think for me, I thought this was an interesting episode. Like everyone said, look, it was on brand. It was a holodeck episode. I kind of thought, okay, good, we've got one. Who doesn't love the holodeck? Um, but this felt more like I don't want to say a filler, but a setup,
Oh yeah,
right?
sure.
Like I'll be honest, because we're doing this every couple weeks. I didn't watch this episode last week. Um, I know I waited and I watched it this week, and I gotta be honest with you, I'm a little glad I did. Like I think watching this episode and then moving right into the
Mind
next
Walk.
episode, Mind Walk worked for me.
Hmm.
I think if I had watched this just last week alone by itself in isolation, I would have been a little frustrated
Interesting. It sounds
because
like
it
you.
felt too much like a bottle episode. Like
Sure.
okay, it didn't like you almost moved the plot, but you didn't.
I guess that's what's interesting. I feel like preludes before this to Ghost in the Machine. I feel like those both like seem like contained episodes that aren't plot driven in a serialized show like this. So I definitely hear you.
The other thing that's interesting to me is kind of Paramount's choice to release these one at a time, right? Because I gotta be honest, like, okay, I've got kids, right? I've got a little one and a not so
Yeah,
little one that thinks they're
you mean
older
little
one.
Tiberius and little like Dax and little Cisco?
Yes. And so I think what's interesting about them is it's fascinating to watch their just the way they move, especially with media. So I'll tell a quick random pointless story is that my daughter, I have a fifth grade daughter, she brought home this thing that she couldn't quite figure out what it was. Like, so her teacher gave her something and she brought it home and she was like, Dad, what is this? Now my eyes lit up. It was a cassette tape. And
Mm.
I'm explaining that we used to listen to this on like music. This is how we listened to music when I was growing up. And she's immediately starts poking at it and goes, it's broken, the screen won't come on. Right? Like
I love it.
I'm
I love
looking
it.
at how she interacts with, she couldn't understand the tape and how it works. So what that helps me understand is, kids today just they interact with media in a very different way. And one of the things that I notice is that they're used to consuming media much faster than we did, right? So when we grew up, you watch TV, it's like, man, this is my favorite show. It comes on Thursday nights. I'm going to watch it. And then it's like, yeah, and then I'll wait for the next one. That's not how they consume TV. They consume things one after another. And so they're used to shows being released and then consuming them, binging them. That's the norm. So I wonder what it was like for children in particular to watch this episode set apart and alone and going, okay, where's the next one? Because for me watching it together just made a lot of sense. It made so much more sense watch back to back.
I think that is a really interesting question. If anyone knows the answer, please let us know.
Okay. All right, let's speaking of which, I think that's a great kind of segue to the next episode. Paul, tell us a little bit about Mind Walk.
Well, maybe we do another hot freaks before that. Ah, hey, so Mind Walk, this is where like Janeway and Dow swap brains, and it might just be me, but I am a sucker for a body swap episode. I'm just a sucker for it. So like,
You're into the Parent Trap kind of
like
vice versa inner space kind of we're gonna switch brains Freaky Friday. Those are your
yeah,
joint that's your those are your vibes.
for whatever it is, I just really enjoy like someone pretending to be another person. And I feel like this delivered exactly what I wanted from a mind swap episode. I felt like it moved the needle for the plot. It made things complicated. It made things better. Uh, I had a great time watching it.
Interesting. I'm gonna say that to me it was interesting. So watching these back to back, like as one long episode, this kind of made sense. When I separate them and think about it, I'm like, man, like okay, it- we got the holodeck episode, now we got a brain swapping episode. Like, okay.
Like what I'm hearing, Clyde, in your tone is like there aren't enough ships.
I mean, I can't say that because not to give it away, but at the end there are a whole bunch of ships,
Yep, yep, yep.
right? So if you can see me, my eyes lit up and I'm pressing pause and trying to see all the different types of ship configuration. So I definitely had the ships, and we even got a little like space battle. So
Hmm.
I was working that worked for me,
Yeah, yeah,
right? You even got some space walk with
yeah.
two people going out. So those things worked for me. It's weird. Dal trying to be
Janeway.
Janeway was just a little. You know what I think it was? So one, let me say kudos to the writing and the production team because they squeezed a lot into 24 minutes. This is a hard, like the degree of difficulty to take some of this topic, like the mind swapping and do it in 24 minutes is really hard. It's usually hard to do it in 44 minutes because this makes for a great movie because you go through the I just discovered that I'm in the wrong body and kind of going through the what's that like and getting used to the body, then convincing everybody that I'm that person, and then the whole journey of getting back. They did that literally at warp. You like how I did that there?
I did.
They
It's
did
good.
that.
It's good. It's good. Like
They did it at warp and wrapped it up. So I think it was a lot in 24
mhm.
minutes. But I thought they were able to make it happen.
Is there a but? Is it
No, it like again, I'm gonna I'm gonna say this did feel like a great kids episode.
sure,
So
sure?
I feel like we need like an 8-year-old on this show.
Oh, that would be great.
Or 2 8-year-olds to just yell at us and tell us how
That's right.
wrong we are about
That's
so many
right. Because
things.
yeah, no, I think that would be great. But yeah, so well, let's do a quick recap.
Okay.
We start off face to face with the Dauntless. The Protostar kind of just does a drive by and then goes to warp,
Hmm.
and then the Dauntless is chasing. By the way,
Yeah.
is the Dauntless huge or the Protostar just a small ship? Because the Dauntless like it is like it is massive. I'm going like holy crap! Like this is a big ship. Like I have no idea how big it is, but like every time it's next to the Protostar, it feels like this Protostar is like a shuttlecraft.
That's a really interesting question. I don't know that I have an answer. I'm trying to think of like crew size, right?
Hmm. Sure, sure.
Um, the Dauntless is definitely staffed by more people,
Yeah,
and the Protostar can be staffed by clearly 5 children.
yeah.
So I'm assuming it's a smaller ship, but
No,
I'm not
mean,
sure. I mean,
it's drawn that way.
the head of the Dauntless is just like ginormous.
Yeah, no,
So
it's anyway. So the Dauntless gives chase. Then the Dauntless starts firing at what do you call it? Uh, the Protostar. The Protostar's proto drive is offline, and I guess what we know is the proto drive is faster than the slipstream. Like just for
yes,
because everyone's always worried about that, and I go, oh, that's interesting. Like we still don't know how it works because science magic, but but still, I thought that was some information that I didn't know, and the nerd that I am goes oh, look at that. Anyway, the Dauntless is shooting, trying to knock out the shields to beam aboard, and blah blah blah. Uh, so what? I guess Zero has the idea of you know what we need to do? We need to talk to Captain Janeway without using communications. So let's talk to her telepathically. But I need some. I know Dow comes up with that, but Zero says oh, I need a boost, someone with telepathy. And since Dow is an augment, with all those 23 genes, uh, uh, Zero and Dow hold hands and try to talk to Janeway. Now, uh, just a little nerd quibble. Uh, uh, they say that it's because of Dow's Organian DNA that gives him the telepathic ability, and I go that is not good canon. So because the Organians are a original series species, and they are non-corporeal, like super beings that Spock has said, they are evolutionarily ahead of us as much as we are the amoeba. So, I don't know where they got Organian DNA, but I was going, so close. You went digging, but you didn't have the context, or you chose to ignore the context.
would you have preferred they just said Betazoid?
Well, I would, they needed Organian for other plotty reasons. They could have just made something up.
Mhm.
Because I mean, we already seen that Vulcan's part of Dow's DNA, and they because of the episode where he starts flipping through. So it's already all there. I understand why you just want to use this. Exa- uh, absolutely.
So Chupi says, but Zero says before they became non-corporeal. Good enough.
Absolutely, and I hear you, but if you remember the episode, they took corporeal form just to interface with the Starfleet and the Klingons, but that wasn't their form, and I just have a hard time that that the super DNA was on file for anyone to take. My hot take, my hot freak, it's just nerd quibble, but thank you for that, for calling that out. Anywho's, so so they swap brains, and Janeway's going what's happening? Who are you guys? And then we cut to Dow, and Dow's going, oh crap, I'm in Janeway's body. And so we dance around, Janeway getting more information and trying to get back, and Dow trying to play Admiral for a little bit, which
Right.
super ridiculous. It is not, it is it is not anywhere a good attempt whatsoever. It's a kid playing, as an adult. It's big, you know, you know.
Yeah, but he did. Okay, so I did like the movie Big, but in Big, it felt like he was trying a little bit more.
Oh,
But
sure,
it's
sure,
like,
sure. But that was a bit of a. I don't want to say what's a
I
good
like
word.
Dow, so watch yourself. Like that's my dude.
And yet you didn't like his performance of it, Janeway.
No, I did not like his performance in
And
Janeway.
why didn't you like what was Dow too much of or too little of?
Uh,
Yeah, that's right. Say
Comic
it.
relief and
Uh
not
huh.
enough straight man.
Uh huh. But would Dow ever play straight man?
No, like
So
if that being Gwen, if Gwen had done that,
hundred
it
percent,
would have been amazing.
100%, 100%. It would have been cool. It'd been dramatic, and you know what? They might have just solved all the problems. But you get the guy who's least likely to be able to.
King Kern says, Doll can't say talk to me. Doll calling the Andorian officer antennas was great.
Yeah, no, like like that mildly racist slur. Oh my god.
Yes, but I think here's the thing I love about Doll, though, right? Because I have to remember this isn't for us. It's not
Yep,
for
yep,
me. It's not for me.
100%.
Is that he is a great captain for kids,
Oh, 100%.
right? Like he's silly, he's goofy, just enough leadership, quotient to
Mhm.
make it work. Um, I thought it was work. I thought it works, just maybe not works for me.
Yeah, no, and so basically, uh, they try to do a telepathic exchange again. It doesn't work, and because they deduce that because of its Organian DNA, like they need a contact of some sort, and like it was the energy contact from the phasers that did it the last time, and so now there needs to be some kind of connection. So they decide to spacewalk and jump in the middle of the warp bubble, which they had merged, and touch, and then and then they will swap brains, which for all of it, why not? Like this is a kids show. It's far out there, but I've seen worse. Uh,
So here's the interesting thing for me about this, right? So I was thinking about this earlier. When you look at the whole conversation, and you'll get to it in a minute when we talk about being an augment,
mhm,
right? So if you're watching all of the new Trek, this included, right? You're watching Lower Decks,
mhm,
you're watching
sure,
Picard, you're watching everything. If you go back and you remember the Strange New World episode where they talk about augments,
mhm.
like when Janeway says this and they start talking about the fact that Dahl's an augment, it all goes, yep, I know that. Like that is perfectly in line. And so it does feel like there's some this play between the different series, even Prodigy.
Mhm.
I'm wondering, like, we have never seen anybody share a warp bubble and like spacewalk in the middle of a warp bubble.
Well, we have actually.
We have. Okay. Well, I was just wondering if we'll see it again.
Oh, we
Like this is
where we seen it
where.
on Enterprise.
Fair. Fair.
It's basically in this episode like the Enterprise and the sister Enterprise. There we go.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, I have a love-hate relationship with Enterprise. If you're new to our pod, but what you may not know is a couple years ago, I I was challenged to watch Enterprise with our Patreon and our watch-alongs, which I love to do,
Mhm.
and I did for a while, but then around season 3-ish,
Yeah, no,
I
haven't
fell
seen it.
off, so I
Yeah,
must have missed it. But yep,
in season
maybe.
four, like
Yep. See, there it
basically
is.
down memory lane. Like I think section 31 or proto section 31 basically puts a virus in the Enterprise engine, and it keeps on accelerating. And so I think it was it's called the Columbia, the sister ship to the Enterprise, has to match velocities with the Enterprise, share warp bubbles, and then Trip has to jump from one to the other. And so it's because Trip was the only one who can stop the Enterprise without destroying everything.
Yep. Chupi is one of the
She,
biggest
Chupi's watching it right
Enterprise
now.
fans.
That's right. She's watching the episode right now.
No, Chupi knows. Chupi definitely knows these episodes.
Yeah, no, and you know what? It's a good episode. Like
Well, maybe, just maybe, our Patreon team and our Slack channel will organize a Enterprise watch along, and we can kind of go back and watch this episode.
just basically twist like Clockwork Orange Clyde to watch the rest of
Hey,
Enterprise.
listen, I was there. I was there. I was there every week watching those episodes, and they got better. For me, and again, this is we're talking about Prodigy, so I'll stop. But toward the fourth season, when they're kind of going over, and Archer seems to be a little bit darker. That was a little harder for me. Like it was just
Interesting.
a little bit harder for me.
Interesting.
But we are talking Prodigy,
Okay.
so
So
and we definitely are not going to have an Enterprise podcast. That's not
uh,
that's
okay.
not in the future.
Okay. And so what happens is uh they're gonna jump and meet in the middle and touch, and they're gonna change brains. Like along that part, like there's some like discussion about they Janeway's gonna help them, blah blah blah. And then Gwen says, hey, Dow really wants to join Starfleet. And Janeway says, well, he can't because he's an augment and there's rules against that. And and that I don't know if that's the best time to say that. And she was nicer than I just described it, but like effectively that's what she said. Uh and so like that's gonna be sad. But like
It's interesting because I'm just thinking that I wonder if that gives it away a little bit, right?
what's that?
Because in Strange New Worlds, we are all waited on with bated breath to see what's going to happen with Una,
Uh-huh.
right? And so if we know that that's in the past and this is in the future, then does that just
Well,
does
I
that
mean,
does that give it away a little bit that
well,
the resolution is not going to
well,
be what we want it to be?
yeah, I mean like it's one of those things where like Bashir is an augment and he gets, he got the pass, and Dow is like even less, culpable than Bashir, but like, you know, Star Trek has a no steroid, policy, and I think that's good, right? I think that's a good policy, right? You don't want con,
Right.
so yeah, I don't know. It might be sad for Dow, but like I might land on the no because I'm a cold-hearted admiral. I'm the Jericho of the group, basically. That's what it comes down to.
I mean, but how is an augment? How is Dow being an augment any different from Data, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
uh,
Data is pure augment.
I agree, but it's not about the one person, right? It's about the culture. You
Mm.
can't there. It'd be a problem once you're able to make tons of datas. That's when you have a problem. But
We had a whole in Picard. There was like a whole planet of Datas.
yeah, but that was kind of hidden, right? And there were Romulans like looking to extinct them.
Yes, let's make our Federation policy based on Romulan
uh,
emotions.
I'm just saying, like it's there's reason for it. I'm not saying it's going to be fair for everyone, uh, but like it is a hard thing. Like as like here's something that we, as at least me as an American, has something to really like come to grapples with. Like we actually prefer performance. We like and if the cheating is hidden, uh it's kind of okay. And when it's shown later, then we kind of brush off. I use, for example, Arnold Schwarzenegger. We when he was at his highlight, like we were all like, I'll be back, blah, 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 blah. And then like he got so big that uh after it comes out that he did, steroids, for all this time, the response was like, yeah, so he's a Terminator. And that's something that, like, I think a lot of people like that, right? That I don't know, I don't know if it's a Prodigy discussion, but like, but the idea of having people cheat, you just can't be caught cheating. But like if Gwen didn't say anything and Dow just went in, maybe he could have gotten through. Although, to be fair, like the scanners, said something already, right?
Well, the scanner said there's something interesting and to contact them, but they didn't
Exactly.
say what. So I think that if this was a situation where Dal never found out,
Hmm.
entered Starfleet, and then found out later, that'd be a different situation,
I think
right?
you're absolutely right. I think it's right.
Though
Um,
I disagree with not letting him in. Like to
no,
your
no.
point, I think culturally we like high performers,
Yeah,
right?
no.
We want the stars, the people who were top of their list, and we want
Yeah,
to believe that they're just like us,
yeah,
and
no,
that
no.
they're special, but not that special. They're
Yeah,
just
like I mean, if
so
you look back at Schwarzenegger, you go, "Oh yeah, he was writing it up." No one looks like He-Man, right? I mean,
yeah.
I
But I think the difference is where this gets into an interesting place is eh, the people who fashion themselves wanting to be a bodybuilder. Like it's hard to look at a bodybuilder and assume, oh yeah, that's all natural. Like
mhm,
sometimes it's just hard. Like there's
sure,
something there, right? I think it's different when you're saying I want to be there and you cheated to get there.
sure, sure.
And I think when you look at, in Dow's case, being in Starfleet, there's a sense of, well, everybody wants one of those coveted spots.
Hmm.
He's there, but you know, I should have it because I'm doing it this way and he cheated. And I don't look at him cheating. I look at it as
Oh, he
him
didn't,
work.
right?
He didn't,
Yeah, he
right?
didn't
It's not like he went
ask
and
for it.
said, "Hey, I need to do this so I can get there."
Yeah.
Just kind of who he is.
No, I think once again I'm the Deep Space Nine guy. The 3 episodes to watch are like Dr. Bashir, I presume, is when you reveal that Bashir is what you call it, an augment. There's the one I can't remember what it's called. It's the one where you have the four augments who got messed up, and we meet them for the first time. Uh, that was the part. That was part. The first one of them, and the second one in season 7 was called Chrysalis, where the augments are back again. But like they really deal with the discussion about uh, performance enhancing use, like how if you make a culture where this is allowed, then everyone is forced to do it, and then all of a sudden, everyone has kidney problems, and anyway, back to Prodigy.
Whew.
So basically, they do the jump. They're trying to meet in mid warp bubble, and then the Dauntless, um, what you call it, tractor beams, Janeway's body, Dow's brain, and they can't connect. And then Janeway uses her phaser to stun her body, and the telepath connection is resolved with that phaser shot. And I have to say, when Janeway did that, I was going like, I love Captain Janeway. That is my Janeway. Janeway's a badass.
What's interesting is when as we look at bringing some of these captains from for me what was like the area of like peak Trek,
Sure.
right? And we bring them back. I always worry about whether or not they're going to damage, tarnish, or
Their
just
reputation,
alter their not just reputation, their
legacy.
legendary status, right? Their
Yeah, yeah,
legacy.
yeah.
And I think, when we look at Picard, I had questions, right?
Sure,
Like to
sure.
me, if I had never seen Picard show up anything else, you would ask me, who's the baddest captain of them all? You'd have a
Cisco.
really hard time. You'd have a really hard time convincing me it wasn't Picard,
Sure, sure.
right? Like the legendary status. It's
Sure,
kind
sure,
of
sure.
like it's like for me, Michael Jordan will be the greatest basketball player of all time. I think kids who are growing up today will say, well, it's LeBron. And I'm looking at you like, there's no way you're ever going to convince me of that. Like,
Sure, sure.
never, ever, ever. Unless I looked up and LeBron and Michael are playing a pickup game. And I'm like, this is a mess, right? And so I think seeing Picard, like, that was
Uh, uh,
feeling like this
y-
is not my captain. What they've done with Janeway is it has done nothing but extend and accentuate her
the myth.
legacy, the myth in ways that have been amazing, and partly not even as Admiral or Vice Admiral Janeway, but as a
Like,
hologram. Like that is a special kind of genius to me,
yeah,
right?
no. I think Janeway, Admiral or hologram Janeway, they're both great. Like the hologram is more nurturing, but Vice Admiral Janeway, she's rocking. Like
She is.
she still's got it. You know, I guess this is the person who beat the Borg Queen. Like, that she's she still got it.
Yeah.
So,
But I also wonder if being able, the fact that the character's animated
mhm.
makes it easier,
Oh sure, 100%,
right?
100%. I imagine.
So Kong says his hot freak, Admiral Janeway meeting holodeck Janeway ranks among his favorite Prodigy moments. Another great cliffhanger ending. That was a really great moment. Like
Yeah.
when they came in and they switched back to Doll, I actually, part of me was set, like I wanted that scene to go on longer.
Oh sure,
The
sure.
interaction between them two, like that was it was a great moment.
Yeah. No, I thought that was like it's good. Like it's so good. So
All
anyway,
right.
oh
All right.
my
So
walk.
yeah, Shoopy says my favorite yet. Brett was amazing. So much went on. Admiral Janeway is fully in the know. Gwen knows Doll can't get into Starfleet. Hollow Janeway got purged. That seems amazing.
Yeah, you see, like it's a great episode. Like everyone likes a body swap.
Everybody likes a body swap. And then Kern says again, all the Trek writers' rooms are in contact. Prodigy reminding us of the Augment Band. Let us know they're not going to rewrite it for Una and Strange Worlds. I'm sure she'll be back though.
Yeah, it's really interesting about Strange New Worlds too, because like when Pike goes to the future, right? Like Una's still in jail,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm curious how that's going to change. But anyway, regardless, like steroids.
Steroids are bad,
That's
kids.
right. That's right. But if someone offered me like we talked about this, right? If you want to
Mm.
be like augmented a little bit, would I, and I had the credits to do it, the latinum to do it. People hate a cheater, but they love a winner.
I mean, I absolutely would consider. I think I'd want to know the side effects,
Sure.
right? Side
The
effects
side effects
matter
is awesome. you know,
until they're not.
chronic awesomeness.
Yes. And man,
Anyway,
you're great until the
you coming back, Clyde? I'm frozen or you're frozen. I can't tell. Okay, I'm gonna vamp as Clyde is coming back or not. I don't know. Anyway, let's see. Uh, Janeway and what do you call it, Dow? Uh, they get close, and Janeway figures it out. She shoots Dow with her hand phaser. And are you back, Clyde?
I am back. I
Okay.
am back.
Anyway, so the they swap brains back. And it ends with uh, the Prodigy going into like the restricted sector, and all these ships have surrounded Prodigy, and the crew is the Prodigy crew is thinking like, oh, it's going to be okay because Admiral Janeway knows. Cut to Admiral Janeway in the brig, and so here we go. And the next episodes will be a two-parter. It's called Supernova, and it will be the season finale. So we'll see how it goes. But that's how the episode ends.
And I think that's a great way. Any kind of parting shots? Anything you want to wrap up with, Paul?
Uh,
Um,
let's see. I like for these two episodes, I would say that I I had a good time watching them. They aren't my favorite episodes in the series, but they they aren't uh they aren't they're good. They're good. Like I really I was watching it and I was really impressed on how adult the structure is, and the accessibility to what I assume kids can watch. I assume the kids can watch it. Like my only concern would be like it's serialized. So how many kids like will want to go watch a serialized show that comes on once a week that
mhm.
that talks about a world that is not exactly user friendly, but uh it asks them a lot. And the kids and the characters are a little goofy. It's an interesting blend. It works for me because I will consume anything Trek, but like I would love to see the numbers on this to see because I suspect what's happening is like there's just a lot of people like me watching this. I don't know if any kids watch this show. I think just adults just go like, oh well, I'm gonna watch this anyway because I'm watching Trek anyway, and that's where the numbers are coming in.
Well, I think you're I mean, you're hitting me right what I was thinking, and that is, I want to know how many parents watch this with their kids, right? Because to me, this would be a great show if my children were really into Trek.
Mm-hmm.
This would be a great thing for them to watch, for me to watch with them. They're
Sure.
not, so that's frustrating.
Like you must.
Um,
Are you going to return your kids and like get new ones, or because of that, or maybe get some augments, splice in some Star Trek DNA?
I wish that was possible, but
Are you saying your
no,
kids are not good enough? Clyde, bad father,
no.
bad, bad father.
Listen, it took me a while to get my daughter into Star Wars.
Uh-huh.
Just give me time.
That's right. There you go. There you go.
We will be watching Trek at some
That's right.
point.
Our minds are one.
Yes. So no, but I think the numbers are interesting. I mean, I do think there are a lot of people like us and the listeners to this to our podcast who watch Prodigy. I'd be curious about kind of how kids think about this.
Yeah, no, like, uh, I would love to bring on a kid who watches this. Any people who are on the pod, like who are on the live stream, if you know any kids, kids do.
Yes.
Oh,
So
awesome.
Choopy says kids do though. Other pods definitely have parents that watch with kids.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Juppy. Like, I think that's great. I'm not gonna find those pods and listen to them. You know.
But yeah, well, as we I think it's probably time for us to wrap up.
Okay.
I would say I just want to remind everybody to subscribe, rate, and review on Apple and at StarTrekPod.co, where you can find out more about our podcast. And please remember to, if you want to hang out with us, you want to talk Trek, we've got a great Patreon community, like Paul mentioned earlier, for just $2 an episode. And we're getting to the last few episodes of the year here. For $2 an episode, you'll have access to our Slack channel where we talk Trek all the time. So come hang out with us. Paul, why don't you remind listeners how they can follow us?
Oh, I've never done this before. You can follow us on Twitter. Shout out to Karen.
Yes.
And our Twitter is something.
It is at Star Trek Pod.
At Star Trek Pod, yeah. That would track. It would trek.
It tracks and it treks.
Now, and we apologize that our captain's in sick bay, and apologize for this loose hang. We could have done better, but we didn't.
Hey, just imagine that you were trapped with us in a shuttlecraft.
That's right.
And that's what you got. You didn't get the full ship experience, but you got a little bit of a shuttlecraft experience.
Like not to speak for you, but I feel like the episode in Voyager where, like, the doctor gets beamed onto the ship with the Romulans who've taken over the Prometheus, and the two medical holograms are running. You're trying to take over. I feel that's you and me. I don't want to speak for you, but this is how I feel.
Okay. I mean, I'm just happy. Look, anytime I get to hang out with our community, I feel it a privilege and an honor. So I'm glad I can talk Trek with you guys. So
yep. Okay.
All
everyone.
right. Thank you so much for joining us on Star Trek Discovery Pod. We will see you in a couple weeks where we talk about the finale, the 2-part finale.
Yeah. And
Goodwill, Mariah, if you're listening.
Yeah, and boldly go, everyone, where no one has gone before.
Live long and proper.
Okay, guys.